Hi everyone, I'm Mary Ellen with Headwaters Science Institute and it's Thursday Science Challenge. Today we're going to get down to the earth and look at some soil and learn about its composition. Your challenge today is to use a Munsell soil color chart and determine what type of soil you have. We'll also do a sediment test. Soil is the foundation of our ecosystem. It filters water, it provides nutrients, it holds forests and crops in place, and it helps regulate the Earth's temperature by capturing greenhouse gases. Soils take a long time to form. You start out with a rock, and then slowly over time it's physically weathered, chemically and biologically affected, and until it's very small particles. And then you add organic material and air, and you have soil. There's so much to study about soil, from microorganisms in it, to how much topsoil you have, to how fast it's eroding. But today, we're going to look at the mineral content of soil and how you assess it. Mineral content is especially important for gardeners or farmers because when they know the mineral content, they can determine which plants or crops will be successful. So, let's go and find some soil. Scientists have been using something called a Munsell soil color chart for 50 years to evaluate type of soil. Soil color is determined by minerals and organic material and water and air. Since we all don't see color the same, the soil color chart was developed to standardize soil color. Yellow or red soils indicate more iron oxides, meaning there are more chemical processes going on. Dark brown or black soil indicates more organic material. Gray soil indicates low oxygen, and white soils indicate more calcium. If you can, download this color chart to use to classify your soil. The working Munsell chart has many pages, but we'll work with this simplified page for our challenge. The Munsell color rating has 3 parts. The first number has some letters in it representing the color, so YR means yellow-red. The second number is the value, or light versus dark, 0 meaning black and 10 meaning white. The third number is the chroma, or how bright or vibrant it is, and it's rated 2 to 12. To analyze your soil, you need to gather some moist soil. I watered this down and let it sit for a while. You don't want it too wet either, that won't be as accurate. So grab a handful of the moist soil, put it on your chart, and see what color it matches up to. Mine's in this range, and I'm going to pick this one, 5YR2/2, 2/2. So the Munsell comes in 3 numbers. The first one is the color or the hue. Mine's a 5YR yellow-red. The second number is the value, or the light versus dark. And dark is on the low end, so 2 is very dark. The third number is the chroma, or how bright or vibrant it is, from 2 to 12, and it's actually low on that scale, so the chroma is on the low end. Because dark and brown, black colors indicate organic material and generally healthy soil, I can assume that my soil is pretty healthy because it's pretty dark. Now that we've looked at the mineral content of your soil, let's investigate how much sand, silt, and clay you have in your yard. The combination of those 3 will tell you how easy it is to grow things in your yard. And it's very simple. We'll do a settlement test. You need a clear jar with straight edges and some water. I loosened up some dirt and cleaned off the top pine needles, and I'm going to just put in enough dirt so there's a little bit of space at the top. I picked out as many rocks as I could, and you want to pull out the rocks and twigs because you just want dirt in there. And now I'm going to dump water in to the top so there's enough to cover all of the dirt with some extra room. Then I'm going to put my lid on and shake it up really good. Shake it for a good minute or 2 so it gets all mixed up. And then we're just going to let it sit. And I'm going to measure it at 1 minute, 1 hour and 24 hours, and that's going to tell me a lot about my sand, silt, and clay. I've got it nice and shaken up, and now I'm going to put it down and start my timer, and in 1 minute I'm going to measure where the settlement is. Sand is heavier than silt and clay, so that will settle out first, and I'll mark the jar where I see that layer. It's been 1 minute and I can already see layers forming. My sand layer is right there. And now I'm going to time it for an hour and come back and mark it. It's been 1 hour and I'm seeing some really obvious lines. Silt is heavier than clay, so I'm going to mark where the second line is. It's been 24 hours and I've made my marks. Here it's a little hard to tell because the color is so similar, but the grain size is bigger down here than here. So from this line down is my sand, in the middle is the silt, and the very small jump up here is clay. This light brown is actually water, and this is floating wood debris. I rinsed out my jar, brought it inside so I could see the lines, and we're going to measure it now. We're going to measure it in millimeters because the conversion will be easier, and it is science. So from the bottom of the jar to the first line, I read 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 millimeters. So I wrote it down right there. From the second line, from the first line to the second line, I'm reading 5, 10, 15 millimeters. And then this small jump is only 5 millimeters. Now let's do some fun math. I'm going to take all of my 3 ingredients and add them up, and I get a total of 70 millimeters of soil. If I want to figure out what the percent of each of those are, we just do a little bit of math. We take 50 millimeters of sand, divide it by 70, which is the total, multiply it by 100, and I get 71% of that sample with sand. If I do it with silt, dividing 15 by 70 times 100, I get 22% of that sample with silt. And the clay came out as 7%. So now I'm going to show you a really cool chart that is going to tell me what kind of soil I actually have with those percentages. This is something called a soil triangle, and people use this to figure out if their soil is good for growing things. The goal is you want to have your soil fall somewhere in the center of your triangle to be good for growing. It looks complicated, but it's not. Start with your first value. I'm going to pick sand, and it's at 71%. So I'm going to go to the bottom line and find where 71 is and draw a straight line to the other side. Then I'm going to go to my silt, which is 22%, and draw another straight line on one of these lines all the way to the other side. Where the 2 lines cross is where your soil fits into the triangle. It looks like I'm going to have to add stuff to my triangle to make it good for growing. I've looked at the mineral content and the soil composition of the soil in my yard, and I challenge you to do the same. See if you can predict where you would find different soils, especially that first number, the color or the hue, because that'll tell you how much organic material is in your soil. If you find something, send us a picture. We'd love to see it, and see you next week.